Dog refuses to leave shelter. Then worker finds the reason that changes everything. The sound of barking echoed through the cramped halls of the Sunny Paws Animal Shelter, a place where hope and heartbreak coexisted. Dogs wagged their tails eagerly as visitors passed by, their eyes pleading for affection and a chance at a new life. But in the far corner of the shelter, one kennel remained quiet. Inside lay a scruffy but noble-looking German Shepherd mix named Max. Unlike the other dogs, Max never ran to the front of the cage when visitors approached. He didn't wag his tail or bark. Instead, he sat in the back, his amber eyes fixed on the ground, as if resigned to his fate. Before we continue, let me know where you're watching from in the comments down below. Mac's story was a sad one. Found wandering the outskirts of the city, emaciated and with a matted coat, he had been brought to the shelter 3 months ago. Despite his impressive size and soulful gaze, no one seemed interested in adopting him, and strangely, Max showed no interest in leaving either. Some dogs don't adjust well to shelter life, explained Lily, one of the senior workers at the shelter. She had a soft spot for Max and often stayed late to sit by his kennel, talking to him softly as she cleaned the floors or fed the other animals. But it's more than that with Max, she added one evening as she discussed him with her coworker Sam. It's like he's waiting for something. Sam nodded thoughtfully, leaning against the counter. Or someone. Dogs don't just act like this for no reason. I wonder what his story is. Lily sighed. She had wondered the same thing every day since Max arrived. His behavior puzzled her. While other dogs would try to run out of the kennel during cleaning, Max never attempted to escape. He was obedient, quiet, and always watchful. Sometimes Lily thought he seemed to be listening for something, his ears perking up whenever a child's laughter echoed in the distance or when a certain type of car engine pulled into the parking lot. One Saturday afternoon, the shelter was bustling with visitors looking to adopt pets. Families walked up and down the aisles, stopping to admire the playful puppies and friendly dogs. Max barely glanced up as people passed his kennel, even when a little boy crouched by the bars and called out, "Hi, doggy, want to come home with me?" Max stayed in the shadows, his tail unmoving. Why doesn't he want to leave? Lily wondered aloud later that day as she sat by Max's kennel, a bowl of fresh water in her hand. "What are you waiting for, buddy?" Max shifted slightly, lifting his head to look at her. For a brief moment, Lily thought she saw a flicker of something in his eyes, sadness, longing, maybe even recognition. It sent a shiver down her spine, but before she could dwell on it, he lowered his head again and sighed. That evening, as the shelter closed and the last of the visitors left, Lily decided to spend some extra time with Max. She brought him a soft blanket and a treat, hoping to coax him into opening up. "You know, Max, you're breaking my heart here," she said softly, sitting cross-legged on the floor just outside his kennel. "Every dog deserves a chance to be loved, but you don't seem to want that. Why?" Max didn't respond, of course, but his eyes locked onto hers for a long moment. Then, slowly, he rose and padded over to the front of the kennel. It was the first time he'd voluntarily approached her since arriving at the shelter. Lily's breath hitched as she reached through the bars, her fingers brushing against his thick fur. He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned into her touch, his warm amber eyes filled with an emotion she couldn't quite place. "You're trying to tell me something, aren't you?" she whispered. "I just don't know what it is." The next morning, Lily arrived at the shelter to find Sam standing by Max's kennel, a puzzled look on his face. "What's going on?" she asked, setting her bag down. "Max has been pacing all morning," Sam replied, "and barking." Lily's brow furrowed. Max rarely barked. She hurried to his kennel and saw him pacing back and forth, his ears perked up and his gaze fixed on the entrance. Every few seconds, he let out a sharp bark, his posture tense and alert. "Something's different," Lily murmured, watching him closely. "He's never acted like this before." The sound of the front door opening caught her attention, and she turned to see a man and a young girl walking in. The girl, no older than 7, had wide brown eyes and curly hair that framed her small face. She clung to the man's hand, her expression shy but curious. Max froze. His ears shot up, and his body stiffened as he stared at the pair. Then, to Lily's astonishment, he let out a low, mournful whine and pressed himself against the bars of his kennel, his tail wagging for the first time. "What on earth?" Lily whispered, her heart racing. The man and the girl walked toward the reception desk, but Max couldn't take his eyes off them. He barked again, this time with an urgency that made Lily's chest tighten. She had never seen him act like this. "Do you think they know him?" Sam asked, his voice tinged with curiosity. "I don't know," Lily replied, but deep down she had a feeling that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Lily's mind raced as she watched Max's reaction to the man and the little girl. The dog who had spent months in silent detachment was now a whirlwind of energy, his tail wagging furiously and his bark filled with urgency. It was as if Max had been waiting for this moment all along. The man approached the front desk, his voice low as he spoke to the shelter's receptionist. The little girl stayed close to his side, clutching his hand tightly. Her wide brown eyes darted around the shelter, taking in the rows of kennels before landing on Max. The moment she saw him, her face lit up. "Daddy, look!" she exclaimed, pointing toward Max's kennel. "It's him! It's the dog from the picture!" The man froze, his gaze following his daughter's pointing finger. When his eyes met Max's, something unspoken passed between them. He stepped closer to the kennel, his expression shifting from surprise to recognition. "Is this dog up for adoption?" the man asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Lily, still standing nearby, stepped forward. "Yes, his name is Max. He's been with us for a few months now." The man crouched in front of the kennel, studying Max closely. "I can't believe it," he murmured. "He looks exactly like the dog we lost almost a year ago." The little girl knelt beside her father, her small fingers gripping the bars of the kennel. "Hi, doggy," she said softly. "It's me, Ellie. Do you remember me?" Max's reaction was instantaneous. He pressed his nose against the bars, letting out a series of soft, excited whines. His tail thumped against the floor, and his eyes shone with a mix of relief and joy. Lily's heart clenched as she watched the scene unfold. It was clear that Max recognized them. "This is incredible," Lily said, her voice shaking slightly. "Max hasn't shown interest in anyone until now. He's been distant with visitors, but the moment you walked in, it was like something clicked." The man nodded, his expression a mixture of awe and sadness. "We had a dog who looked just like him. His name was Max, too. He went missing after an accident near our home. We searched for weeks, but we never found him. Ellie has been asking about him ever since. I think this might be him, Lily said, her voice filled with hope. Max has been acting like he's waiting for someone. It makes sense now. He's been waiting for you. Ellie's face lit up with excitement. Can we take him home, Daddy? Please. The man hesitated, his eyes meeting Lily's. Do you have any records about where Max came from? Anything that could confirm if he's our dog? Lily nodded. We can check his intake file. If he's chipped, we might be able to trace it back to you. She hurried to the office, her hands trembling as she sifted through Max's paperwork. When she found his file, her breath caught. He did have a microchip, and the records indicated that he had been scanned when he was first brought to the shelter. Lily quickly accessed the database, her heart pounding as she entered the microchip number. A match appeared on the screen, and Lily's eyes widened. The contact information listed belonged to a family with the same last name as the man standing in the lobby. She grabbed the file and rushed back to him. I think you're right, she said, holding out the paper. The microchip matches your information. Max is your dog. The man's face crumpled with emotion as he reached out to touch Max through the bars. I can't believe it. I thought we'd lost him forever. Ellie squealed with delight, throwing her arms around her father. Max is coming home. I knew he'd come back. Max, as if sensing the joyous energy around him, barked happily and licked Ellie's hand through the bars. His entire demeanor had shifted. He was no longer the quiet, reserved dog who stayed in the shadows. He was alive with excitement, his tail wagging non-stop. Lily unlocked the kennel, her voice thick with emotion. Why don't you take him out and see how he does with you? The moment the door opened, Max bounded out, his large frame nearly knocking Ellie over as he covered her face in wet kisses. She giggled, wrapping her arms around his neck. I missed you so much, Max, she said, her voice filled with pure joy. The man knelt beside them, stroking Max's thick fur. We're never letting you go again, he murmured. Lily watched the reunion with tears in her eyes. She had seen countless adoptions in her time at the shelter, but this one felt different. It wasn't just a happy ending, it was a miracle. As the family spent time with Max, Lily couldn't help but marvel at the bond they shared. It was clear that Max had been longing to find them just as much as they had missed him. But as heartwarming as the reunion was, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Max's story than they realized. Later that afternoon, as the adoption paperwork was finalized, the man, whose name was Adam, thanked Lily profusely. You've given us a gift we thought we'd never have again, he said. Max is part of our family. We can't thank you enough. Lily smiled, her heart full. It wasn't me. It was Max. He never gave up on you. He knew you'd come back for him. As Adam and Ellie left the shelter with Max trotting happily beside them, Lily stood at the door, watching them go. The sight filled her with a deep sense of fulfillment. Max had found his way back to the people who loved him, and in doing so, he had reminded her of the incredible resilience of the human-animal bond. But little did anyone know, Max's story wasn't over yet. His reunion with his family was only the beginning of an incredible journey that would soon take an unexpected turn. In the weeks following Max's reunion with Adam and Ellie, life at the shelter carried on as usual for Lily. She continued to care for the animals, but Max's story stayed with her. It was a reminder of why she had chosen this line of work, a testament to the unbreakable bonds between humans and their pets. Meanwhile, Max quickly adapted back to life with his family. His days were filled with playful romps in the backyard, snuggling on the couch with Ellie, and long walks with Adam. Max seemed to thrive in the familiar surroundings of the home he had once known. However, Adam couldn't shake the curiosity gnawing at him. How had Max survived the months he was missing? Where had he been, and what had brought him back to them? One afternoon, as Ellie and Max played in the living room, Adam decided to dig deeper into Max's past. He remembered Lily mentioning that Max had been brought to the shelter as a stray, found near a wooded area on the edge of town. Adam decided to pay a visit to the area himself, hoping to uncover clues about Max's time away. The woods were quiet, dappled with sunlight filtering through the trees. Adam parked his car at the edge of a dirt path and began walking, Max trotting happily by his side. As they wandered deeper into the forest, Max's behavior started to change. His ears perked up, his tail wagging with excitement as he sniffed the air. It was as though he recognized the place. "Do you remember something, boy?" Adam asked, kneeling to rub Max's head. The dog barked once, his gaze fixed on a narrow trail winding through the trees. Intrigued, Adam let Max take the lead, following the dog as he darted ahead, pausing occasionally to check that Adam was still with him. The trail led them to a small clearing where an abandoned cabin stood. The structure was weathered and overgrown with ivy, its windows cracked and its door slightly ajar. Max's demeanor shifted again. His excitement gave way to hesitation as he approached the cabin, his body low to the ground and his steps cautious. Adam felt a chill run down his spine. What had Max experienced here? He called the dog back, but Max stood his ground, staring at the cabin as if drawn to it. Adam hesitated for a moment before stepping closer, pushing the creaky door open. The interior of the cabin was dusty and filled with cobwebs. Broken furniture and scattered debris suggested it had been abandoned for years. Max sniffed the floor intently, his nose tracing a path toward the far corner of the room. There, among the rubble, Adam noticed a pile of old blankets. Max barked softly, pawing at the blankets until Adam moved them aside. What Adam found left him speechless. Beneath the blankets was a small metal box, rusted but intact. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands. Inside, he found a bundle of old papers and photographs. One photo in particular caught his eye. It was of a woman holding a puppy that looked just like Max. Written on the back of the photo were the words, "Max, forever my protector." Adam's heart raced. Could this be the same Max? Was it possible the dog's story went back further than they had realized? He tucked the photo and papers into his bag, deciding to examine them more closely at home. That evening, Adam spread the contents of the box across the dining table. Ellie and Max sat nearby, the little girl stroking the dog's fur as Adam sifted through the papers. Most of the documents were old receipts and letters, but the photos told a different story. They depicted the woman from the first photo, smiling, laughing, always with Max by her side. One letter, dated nearly 10 years earlier, revealed something shocking. The woman had written about her struggles with illness and her heartbreak at having to leave Max behind when she moved to a care facility. She expressed her hope that Max would find a loving home and thanked a neighbor for agreeing to look after him. Adam's chest tightened as he read the letter aloud. Max has been my guardian angel, my companion through every storm. If you're reading this, it means he's with you now. Please give him the love he deserves. Ellie's eyes filled with tears. Max was her dog before he was ours? Adam nodded, his voice heavy with emotion. It seems like he's always been looking out for someone, no matter where he ends up. As Adam pieced together the story, it became clear that Max had lived a life of extraordinary loyalty. He had been a guardian to the woman in the photos, a protector to Ellie, and now he had found his way back to their family against all odds. But there was one more twist to come. A few days later, Adam received a call from Lily. Adam, I've been doing some digging into Max's records, she said. You won't believe this, but the woman who owned Max before you, her name was Margaret Lee. She used to live in the same neighborhood as you, just a few streets away. Adam's jaw dropped. Are you saying Max has been connected to us this whole time? It seems that way, Lily replied. Margaret passed away a few months after writing that letter. The neighbor who took Max in couldn't care for him long term, and he ended up at a different shelter before eventually coming to us. It's incredible how he found his way back to you. Adam hung up the phone, his thoughts racing. The coincidences were too powerful to ignore. Max's loyalty had transcended the boundaries of time and space, bringing him full circle back to a family who needed him just as much as he needed them. As Adam looked at Max, lying peacefully at Ellie's feet, he realized that their bond was more than fate. It was destiny. Max wasn't just a dog. He was a protector, a constant in a world full of uncertainty. And now, he was exactly where he was meant to be. Little did they know Max's unwavering loyalty would soon be tested once again, in a way that would cement his place in their lives forever.